I have so many questions about charts and no one to help me. If only there was a place I could go to learn which doesn't cost a fortune.
There is such a place. It's my Patreon. It's £7.50 a month and you get 2 live streams a week. Ask me anything you like about any chart that you want.
What about trading platforms?
Well, in the video description I've got a link for all the best ones and you can get up to 20% off all your trading fees for life.
Thanks CryptoClick, you demand bro.
Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going to have a look at JASMY. I know, I've become a bit of a JASMY channel recently, but it's a good setup and this is why I talk about it, I suppose. So the first initial pump that was generated on the 4-hourly took place when we got our Chiku span. It was the last portion of the Itchy Cloud pump signal on the 4-hourly only, right? So, and that took us, it was a good 20% I think. From I think it was around here, that's where the entry point was, yeah, about 20% on its tether pair. There was and is still no signal or setup on the Bitcoin pair, I believe. However, we've just recently begun a new pump signal on the 12-hourly, so that makes everything a little bit more likely to see at least a move back up to this previous zone and probably break from there, moving up another 30%. Now, it is a pump signal on a 12-hourly, so be prepared for a bit of chop, a bit of sideways and down, a bit of it all over the place. The signal's been generated. It does exist. It's got a 70% hit ratio, so it doesn't have to happen, but it's most likely the case that it will happen, bringing us up to this next target, which is these previous choppy areas from the last major pump that took us all the way down from this level all the way up here. So that was a really big move. A good over about 60% move, I believe. Oh no, it was way more than that, 90% move. But on this occasion, rather than being driven by the overall market and then just emphasizing the market bounce, which is what JASMY did over there, this time round we've come out of a descending triangle. We've got pump signal on the 4-hourly, which has played, which has then incurred a golden cross on the 4-hourly, which is still in play. So we had a perfect, well not perfect, but a standard retest of, first of all, the descending triangle formation, then the golden cross took place, a little bit of a choppy retest of that golden cross, and then the rest of the pump continues, and now we've got the pump signal generated on the 12-hourly. So now just marvel at that one more time. There you go. So we've got our pump signal generated on the Itchy Cloud. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, I mean, for Patreon members, this has become second nature to look for these pump signals. We've got green portion of the cloud, price actions above the cloud. We've got Chiku span closing above the cloud, and the positive cross of the Chiku span of the Ichimoku conversion baseline cross, which took place just over here. So this signal's a 4-signal component that we look for on the Ichimoku cloud for a pump, and it takes us to what we would consider to be the most relevant next level of resistance, which for me I think is going to be just short of 1.4 cent. We'll call it 1.37 cent or so. Not only that, but we've still got the continuous bullish divergence and trend line that has formed throughout this consolidation. Still being bullish, no bearish divergence on this. In fact, it's just going from strength to strength with the money flow index. Still moving up quite high though, so this is still going to be quite choppy when it reaches that next target. Wouldn't at all surprise me to see it move up and do a big pump to that next level and then all the way back down to its previous level of support, resistance, flipping it as support, which would be a big drop, you know, and this is, you know, not unlikely. So a move up there by 30%, a move back down by 18%, that seems to be quite a likely sort of scenario given the way that we see this choppy range or volatile moves. But again, this is why we like coins like this, you know. You can make the most out of them if you're able to do relatively decent and simple spot trading, or I suppose you could set a bot up on this one for USDT. I have actually had a USDT bot set up on this on Pionex, and it's done okay. I've closed it now because I'm hoping for this pump to move up here, and I'm going to actually sell manually at that level because I think I could probably do better than the bot, only because I think I know what I'm doing. Really, it was just a little experiment. Never mind. So that is that, and yeah, so we're looking for that as I move, right? And so yeah, it's all looking quite good. The money flow index is quite hot, so I would expect that goes hand in hand with what I would expect to see a big move up and a pull back down. Hopefully retaining support on this level. If not, we probably come back all the way down to 1 cent again and hopefully retain that level, and then we'll wait patiently for another signal or setup. But yeah, MACD is crossing above the 0 point also, which is all quite good. Now, with all of this in mind, I still very much believe that there's going to be an inverse move take place shortly, maybe this week, from, I suppose we'll call them risk assets, stocks, indexes, to energy and oil. So oil is sort of slowly moving back up again. I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing $100 barrel again, maybe this week or next week. And that, in my opinion, is going to cause a rotation, I suppose, if you want to call it that, from stocks to energy, just as we saw the opposite happen when I was talking about the everything bounce 2 months ago. So this is what we're going to get. We've also got a big day tomorrow, which is the CPI inflation data coming through, which I expect at this point will probably be higher, just like it was before. I think it's going to run higher again. Don't know if you pay attention to what's been going on in the world. I mean, recently, yesterday, with Biden's sort of Green Deal, effectively, it's not inflation friendly. I know he calls it the Inflation Reduction Plan or something like that, but effectively, from what I can see, it seems as though it's going to have the opposite effect. It looks like it's going to continue the increase in inflation. It's just more spending, which is fine, I suppose. Each to their own. Let him do what he wants. We can handle these markets if we can anticipate the moves, whether it's inflation or deflation or stagflation. It doesn't really matter. We can still play these markets regardless. But I think I would, I'm not going. There's no guarantees, but I would assume that inflation is going to continue to run high with that kind of mentality, and those kind of. With all that kind of madness that he's doing. So, like I say, there's positives and negatives. I suppose if you look to the long term, then hopefully things are going to be okay. But the short term, it doesn't seem like there's any way to combat inflation with what he wants to do. So, like I say, the overall markets, Bitcoin included, are likely to go down in the face of oil going up, right? And tomorrow is going to be so choppy, it's going to be crazy because of the CPI inflation data. It might be higher, might be lower, probably going to be higher, but I can't guarantee anything. It's, again, a no trade day. So for anybody who, I suppose, bought into JASMY lower than this, you should be okay. For anyone who's looking for an entry point, retests of these zones 1 cent or maybe even back down to the 0.96 of a cent, I would say it's probably a decent buy for for what could be a surprisingly large move. I'm very much in favor of altcoins working out over the long term, and this is something I was talking about on the Patreon last time. So look, whether you're doing bot trading, hodling, or staking, or whatever it is, I think buying down here is probably going to be very rewarding over the long term. And so we're talking about the full next cycle. Normally you get at least one major alt season every year. I think we've seen the majority of what you could call this being an alt season. Again, we managed to get in at the bottom of these alts when it came to dominance being so high, 48.7% dominance. We got in at the bottom of the altcoins, and we've been scaling out ever since, and that's this year in a bear market. But next year you'll likely have a really big one, the year after that another really big one, and another year after that another really big one. But it'll be choppy all the way. But overall, I think, when it comes to decent value, I think for the most part, there's quite a fair amount of altcoins. Probably, if we're going to look at them, we're going to be thinking only like the top, market cap top 30, top 50, ones that are solid and sturdy and regulated if possible. They're going to stand the test of time, and they're the ones that I think will probably serve you well buying into at these lower prices, and then staking the hell out of them basically while we wait for, I suppose, much larger prices. If we're talking short term though, outside of little trades like this, which are effectively great looking charts with really good setups, we've got signals on them, we've got a decent position on moving averages, everything you'd want to see out of a chart is present on JASMY. It's a choppy bear market basically, and we've done quite well out of it so far. We're looking for a major turn in the markets, and not quite as dramatic as the everything bounce was, but definitely one that's going to offer a fair bit of pullback. So bear all that in mind. You can have a chart like this, which shines in the dark. You know, it's like saying, "Look at me! I've got everything you would ever want to see." And if we saw this in the midst of a bull market, I mean, we would be all over it. But because it's not in the midst of a bull market, you do have to take it. You know, a little. You have to be a little suspicious about it, because this chart is able to do its own thing. But if everything starts to come down again, it's unlikely to be able to sustain its value through a market which is heavily correlated with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's correlated with Nasdaq, and then Nasdaq seems to have an inverse correlation with oil and commodities. So there you go. It is what it is, but it's worth presenting these charts to you for you to see and make your own minds up. I've been relatively bullish on JASMY for a little while, and then the short term I'm still quite bullish on the way that this chart presents itself, but behind this chart lay many other charts which are as relevant as trading this chart on its own. So I'm sure you understand that. Some people don't. Some people will watch this and go, "But I thought you said it was a bullish setup." Huh? Bullish setup. I said, "Oh, well, it is a bullish setup. I've explained all the reasons why." On a TA basis, you'd be like, "Well, that's great, that's brilliant." But remember, you can't just trade the JASMY chart on its own. You have to keep one eye on Bitcoin, another eye on Nasdaq, and another eye, if you can develop another eye, on oil, right? So you have to think about all these things before you... So you need lots of eyes, is all I'm saying. So I'll leave with you there. I am doing the live stream tonight, although one of my children is not particularly well at the moment, so it might be quite hard. So it might be a little later. Maybe we'll start it at 9 or something. I do intend on having the live stream, but it just might be a little difficult. Otherwise, feel free to join the Patreon, whatever. It's up to you. Anyway, have a nice day. Take it easy.